o'clock. Call this general committee meeting to order. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the added delegation? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kim. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have no community presentations. As mentioned, delegations, we have two. First one is Philip Parkomenko, resident, regarding item R1-001, bylaw exemption request for 203 St. John's Side Road West. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll just let Mr. Parkomenko into the meeting right now, and he'll get going.
Thank you. Mr. Parkomenko, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, just to remind you, you have 5 minutes.
Okay.
And the floor is yours.
All right. Hope everyone's doing well today during these tough times. And I'd like to thank the council for allowing us the opportunity to address our concerns. Firstly, in regards to the fence bylaw exemption request for the wooden fence at the front and side of the property, I'd like to draw attention to the fact that the fence was only built in order to protect the house from strong noise coming from evidently heavy traffic of 7 St. John's Side Road. Given the age of Constantine, we request the council to consider the positive implication the fence provides. Constantine was suffering from severe insomnia prior to the construction of the fence. Based on our recommendation from his doctor, Constantine had built the fence in hopes that his condition would improve. Shortly after the fence was built, Constantine's doctor had noticed he had gone from suffering from sleepless nights and heavy medication to enjoying a restful sleep and eliminating the need to be medicated, as mentioned in a doctor's note, which we sent to the council as well. Without the fence in place, Constantine's health will decline. We are aware of the current non-compliance and are ready to work with the city in improving the facade of the wooden fence by planting trees along the fence line in order to provide a more natural aesthetic. In consideration of the tough times we are faced as a society, there's nothing more important than our health and well-being. With this in mind, we kindly request the council to approve a site-specific bylaw amendment and allow Constantine to enjoy his late years of life, as he is planning on living out his retirement at 203 St. John's Side Road. Secondly, in regards to the iron gate at the front of the property, we'd like to express our appreciation for understanding. And based on the discussions in previous council meetings, we would like to inform the council of some additional information that we did not have on hand in previous delegations. The gate was built in the summer of 2017 and stands at an average height of 1.85 meters. The highest point of the gate, which is less than 20% of the gate, stands at 2.3 meters. In conclusion, both Constantine and I would like to thank everyone here for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, first, could I get a motion to receive and refer to item R1? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Humphries. Any comments or questions for the delegate? Seeing none. Philip, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Council, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, we'll move to our second delegation. Our second delegation is Leslie Jennings and Dan Elliott, residents, and it's a written delegation in regards to item R2 PDS 20-005, Aurora Heights Public School Student Safety Plan. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, this is a written delegation on this evening's agenda, and I'll begin now. We have accepted Council's decision to implement sidewalks on Kitimat despite its personal financial impact. We support the no parking restrictions proposed and the lay-by being recommended tonight. we have additional recommendations to ensure child safety and improve traffic flows. We feel the lay-by must be part of the solution to solve the traffic congestion on Tecumseh as follows. Despite the current no parking restrictions in front of the school and the town's current enforcement, every school day parents choke that curb lane while dropping off or worse, waiting for their children after school. This line of parked cars restricts the traveling width of Tecumseh to pretty much only a single lane of traffic, particularly when a truck or school bus is trying to get through. This makes getting through that area very frustrating for drivers going both directions. Without the lay-by, the single lane scenario will continue. And the proposal to move the crosswalk to the north side of the intersection makes sense to align with the sidewalk. However, it will create even more difficulties for traffic trying to navigate this congested single lane area. Particularly parents turning to the left off of Kitimat northbound on Tecumseh. The lay-by must be part of the whole situation, as will eliminate this current traffic bottleneck on Tecumseh. Tonight, we ask council to recognize that the working group recommends both projects to proceed to resolve the safety issues identified. It is very disappointing to see that the school board is simply not interested in investing any amount of money into student safety, but are highly supportive in suggesting the town pay for all costs. The sidewalks are $192,700 and the lay-by is $125,000 for a total of $317,700. We ask council to combine the projects, fund it as one solution tonight, and approve both projects by increasing the current $100,000 project funding by $217,700. Anything short of approving and implementing both proposed solutions will leave the children still at risk from increased chaos occurring at the corner and the town at increased liability, as a report recommending both has now been debated by council. Further, since the lay-by is not yet designed and will not be built until next year, we ask council to consider making Kitimat Crescent a one-way street from the school until the lay-by is completed. Doing so will eliminate the parents from making dangerous U-turns and three-point turns on blind corners and narrow streets on Kitimat, as well as reducing the congestion of traffic at the crosswalk corner by eliminating traffic trying to exit Kitimat there. Several neighbors are supportive of a temporary one-way street as part of the solution. This proposed parking restrictions on the blind corner are still required for traffic safety and visibility. Our proposed amendments to the resolution before you tonight include: number 1, item R2, recommendation 3 be replaced with the following: that the funding request for the design and construction of the lay-by lane on Tecumseh Drive in the amount of $125,000 be approved and funded from the Roads Repair and Replacement Reserve Fund, and the design work commence immediately for construction to occur in summer 2021 or before. And number 2, that the lay-by project and the Kitimat sidewalk installation be combined as a single capital project for student safety. Number 3, that the necessary bylaw be prepared for council adoption to temporarily make Kitimat Crescent a one-way street, west and southbound, effective September 1st, 2020, and the necessary signage be installed from the project budget. That the completion of the Tecumseh lay-by project, upon completion, a traffic study be undertaken in the area during peak school drop-off pickup times to determine if the temporary one-way street restriction on Kitimat should remain long-term or be lifted, and that such traffic study include a period of at least 2 weeks of two-way traffic on Kitimat for purposes of the study. Respectfully submitted, Leslie Jennings and Dan Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to item R2? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have one item on there. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve? Moved by Councillor Gallo, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Advisory committee meeting minutes. We don't have any. Consideration of items requiring discussion. We'll start with R1. CS 20-001 fence bylaw exemption request, 203 St. John's Side Road West. Recommended 1, that report number CS 20-001 be received. 2, that an exemption to the town's fence bylaw number 4753-05.p to permit a non-compliant fence in front and side yard at 2 103 St. John Side Road West be refused. And 3, that an exemption to the town's fence bylaw number 4753-05.p to permit the non-compliant wrought iron gate with a height exceeding 2 meters be approved, and the amending bylaw be brought forward at a future date for enactment. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Kim. Second. Seconded by Councillor Gallo. Any comments or questions on this one? Saying, oh, Councillor Humphreys, go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this evening, we had the delegate mention some of the problems that the resident is having and express concerns, in terms of, what they would like to do. And one of the things that they mentioned is that they wanted to provide some softening of the landscape. So they would be planting some, I guess, trees, bushes, things in front of this fence, which I think would be a lot more appealing than lowering the wooden fence. So is there any way through Mr. Mayor to staff that if we were to, allow, talking out loud here, allow the exemption of allowing the fence to remain, but that they would provide vegetation around the property to make it more appealing, more coverage? Would we be able to force that?
Ms. Van Leeuwen? Ms. Van Leeuwen, I was gonna, maybe you can answer this because I know this is probably on it. It's not, my understanding, it's not the height, it's also the material.
Yes, it's the height and the material. And initially, when it was referred back to staff, we were working with the property owner on some landscaping and plantings. We requested a survey to determine the location of the fence, because if the fence is constructed right on the property line, then we would need the region to approve the plantings as well as the adjacent property owner. We never received a survey.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks.
Councillor Thompson?
Through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen. Each time this has come before us, I think council has sort of referred it back to Ms. Van Leeuwen and her team to see if she can work with the applicant. I'd like to know what kind of options were discussed, or did the town put forth to try and find, I guess, a middle ground?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, we were working with them on some plantings, and also part of that would have been for them to enter into an agreement on the maintenance of those plantings. And like I said, we require a survey to determine the location of the fence, and we were not successful in obtaining that survey. It was just delayed and delayed and delayed, and then it came back to council and it was referred back to staff. So we have never received a survey. And like I said, if the fence is constructed on the property line, we don't have the authority to approve that. We would have to engage with the region and the adjacent property owner and get their approval on the plantings, and then who will be responsible for maintenance.
Councillor?
And again, through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Van Leeuwen, I understand that the material wood is an issue. Why is it an issue? Besides the fact that it's not allowed, what is it about wood as a front yard gate does the town not approve of?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a 2005 bylaw, and it speaks specifically to estate residential and rural residential. And there's specific requirements with respect to the height of fences. In other areas, if it's just a normal, regular residential area, the height of a fence in the front yard is limited to 1 meter. So it allows for an additional height for those areas, but it does require that those fences be constructed of either black chain link, wrought iron, or steel. And in my opinion and interpretation, it was likely that because a 2 meter wood fence board on board creates a perception of fortification.
Thank you. Because I know that, I'm sure all of us have given some thought as to, how to find a solution for this issue. And, one of them that came through my own mind, and probably Councillor Humphreys as well, is just lowering the height of the fence and allowing it to stay wood. So that's why I just wanted to get a better sense of why the material wasn't allowed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. And just on that vein, because I'm sure many people are going to ask, what's the difference between that and, as we all know, on Wellington, just west of Leslie on the south side, very similar fence is erected on the back of all of those homes. What will be the difference? Because I'm sure the question is going to be asked.
Ms. Van Leeuwen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, those fences were a requirement of the subdivision agreements. So based on noise studies that were submitted to the town as part of that development application, quite often that there is noise mitigation features. It can be triple glazed windows, air conditioning, fences, those types of things. And those are actually constructed along a regional road. So again, probably a condition of a regional condition.
Councillor?
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, I struggled before. I'll be supporting this, but I don't know if anyone else finds the irony of, you know, we're allowing that on Wellington because of sound. And this resident is wanting this fence because of sound. And that's what would provide them, but I'll still be supporting this.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Well, that carries. R2. PDS 20-005, Aurora Heights Public Schools Student Safety Plan. It's recommended, 1, the report number PDS 20-005 be received. 2, that the student safety plan for Aurora Heights Public School comprise of the following elements. A lay-by lane on the east side of the Tecumseh Drive along the frontage of the school, subject to the York Region District School Board transferring property and or easements at no cost to the town. B, prohibit parking at all times on the south and east sides of Kitimat Crescent from a 0.9 meters south of the beginning of the curb return to a 0.9 meters east of the end of the curb return adjacent to 25 Kitimat Crescent. And 3, that the funding request for the design and construction of the lay-by lane on Tecumseh Drive in the amount of $125,000 to be included in the 2021 capital budget, subject to recommendation 2A. Council, would someone like to move the recommendations? Sorry, in 1 second, I couldn't see there. Someone like to move the recommendations?
Yes,
Councillor,
I would. Yeah.
thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Second? No seconder? Hello? Going once, going twice. Councillor Gardner. 3rd time's a charm. Thank you for seconding. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Councillor Humphreys. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank staff and the working group to put this together. I do believe that what they are requesting here is truly going to provide the safety measures that the children and the parents need while dropping off and picking up their kids. I know the sidewalk's an element, but I do know that the working group have highlighted the lay-by and the parking restrictions as well. There was a suggestion to have a kiss and ride into the school where the buses go in now, which is just a disaster. But it's a little interesting. The working group, the school said they didn't want to do that because there's kindergarten classes there, and they don't want parents dropping off their cars and then just to worry about the kindergartens. But they have buses going in there now, so I don't understand the difference. But anyway, I would like to suggest that we absolutely move this forward and support it. I also believe that it should be done at the same time as the sidewalks. I don't believe the sidewalks are going to provide the safety measures that we need. These solutions will. I would love for the school to reconsider their I guess, the Kiss and Ride side school. Our Lady of Grace has that set up. There's children that play right there. You put the right gating, the kids get dropped off, it's safe. So for me, this is a very good solution to provide the safety the children need. My only disappointment is that I should have allowed the budget for the sidewalks when we talked about this the first time. We denied the sidewalks to do this plan, that the 100,000 be supported in the safety plan. But obviously this is new capital money that needs to be needs to be found, and go from there. But anyway, I just wanted to again thank staff. I think this is absolutely needs to be done, and I believe that that's when you're going to see a significant change in this area. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner. Oh, Councillor Gardner, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I seem to still be having trouble getting into our meeting, so I arrived late. Did anybody read the delegation from Ms. Jennings into the record?
Yeah, our clerk read the delegation, Councillor.
Thank you. One of the asks are, there were several asks. Were they also read into the?
The whole delegation was read.
Okay, so I would like to present that the easiest one to start by, I think, is that Kitimat be a one-way street.
And that's an amendment?
That's an amendment.
Do I have anyone to second that? Councillor Humphreys? All right, Councillor Gardner speaking to the amendment.
You know, this has been a difficult thing for council. The residents on Kitimat, as far as I know, were not included in the working group, even though they do have an interest in this. And I don't know if they went to the open house, but these are residents. They're very familiar with the street that they live on. If they're asking for this, I think it's something we should definitely try.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, is your hand up for the original motion, or you wanted to speak to the amendment? You want to speak to the amendment or the original motion? Original motion, thumbs up?
Both.
Oh, okay, so go ahead on the amendment, please. I got you down.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Just a question about the delegation, because there was a lot to take in there. Did the delegate indicate that the residents on Kitimat agreed to this one-way street and supported it?
Mr. Clerk, did it speak to, I mean, I think everyone has this in their email, but I'm not sure if it speaks to everyone or if it just speaks to that's their opinions.
Right. Okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify that. I wasn't 100% certain. So I understand the logic behind it, but I do feel that the residents of Kitimat would probably want to have some sort of consultation to this plan or suggestion. I'm not saying it's a bad suggestion, but I think that there's a little bit more work to do as far as this consideration. And also I'd like to have some consideration from staff and their expertise as well. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Waters, have you had any consideration to this street to be a one-way street, or any conversations with any residents about this?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we saw this for the first time today in terms of this email, and we have not had any conversations with any of the residents. We've had an internal conversation regarding the feasibility of the request, and I can communicate to you that we are not supportive of it. And we have a number of concerns, about 3 of them for the most part. We're concerned about increased vehicle traffic speeds on Kitimat, Crescent, and Tecumseth because of the one-way traffic. It resulted in increased travel distance as well, particularly for emergency vehicles. And we're also concerned about compliance and the presence of YRP in terms of any enforcement. We're not sure they will actually enforce the one-way signage because of the fact that they have other issues to deal with. And I think at the end of the day, we're concerned about creating another Center Street where we have a one-way situation, and that there's cars traveling the wrong way, and that there's residents upset about it, and we're back to the table in a solution to a problem that could be avoided by just remaining a two-way street.
Councillor?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So hearing all that, I think there's obviously a lot more work and investigation to do, so I won't be supporting the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Similar to those lines, I mean, I'm always concerned when, we put forward traffic amendments or changes without getting staff to weigh in and provide their professional opinion. If council were to want to consider the various options, then at a minimum, it should be referred back to staff so they can provide us with the input and their expertise, as Mr. Waters has just done now. They're able to inform council on what the pros and cons are. And so I won't support the amendment as is.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I'm appreciative of the residents' recommendation. It's at the surface level, it may seem like it's wisely thought out, but I had the same internal discussions with staff, and what Mr. Waters has stated to everyone was stated to me earlier, and for those reasons, I cannot support the one-way street. And it's no different from should any residents say we should change the width of a road from 8 meters to 6 meters. Those are things that we want the professionals and our staff to, weigh in, and they have weighed in. And for that reason, I cannot support the one-way street. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a clarification, was the one-way street asked from the residents a temporary until the entire safety solution was implemented? I can't remember when the clerk, when our clerk read the delegation, if it was a temporary measure.
I'm sorry, I believe it was to implement a one-way and then do a traffic study to see how well the one-way works, and then after the fact, if it shows that it works well, then to continue with the one-way. I believe that was the essence of what was said. But like I mentioned, we all have that email of the delegation. So if you wanted to just pull
yes, I should be looking at it instead of the report. No, I appreciate that, and I know that I do understand. I understand that staff are the professionals, and I do believe that is something I wouldn't mind staff investigating, providing feedback before we go out and do anything further. I don't think this report is a massive rush, the safety report. So I wouldn't mind, looking at this. Again, the residents live there, they see it every day, and perhaps this would be a good idea. I certainly don't want to create another problem, but I'm in support of this motion in terms of it going back to staff to take a look at this opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions to the amendment? Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I raised this because the residents raised it, and they're asking us to consider it. I think it's a very good idea for it to go back to staff. And yes, they were suggesting that it was I can't say a pilot project, excuse me, but something that certainly would be reviewed, as you said, through a traffic study. So I would like to have this go back to staff. And I would also like to know, my understanding was that this was generally supported. I would also like to know if this idea is generally supported.
Councillor Gallo.
Same comments. We received it, I think, last night at 10:30, and I guess staff took a quick look, but I think I don't have an issue sending it back to staff to review it and come back to us with a formal report, and perhaps some sense of the community, whether they want this or not, or how effective it will be.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, so you've already spoken twice, so I just want to make sure we get your amendment. What is your amendment that we have on the floor?
My amendment would be point 3 and 4. in the, from the delegation be referred back to staff. That's the one-way and also the traffic study.
A seconder okay with that? Mr. Clerk, you got that?
I think so, Mr. Mayor. Just to be clear, it's it's not the whole report, or it's just the points from the delegation.
2 points from the delegation. So I believe it's 3 and 4, which is the one-way street. Well, making it a one-way street and doing a traffic study.
All right. So it's points 3 and 4 from the delegation be referred to staff for a report back to council.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Good, Councillor Gardner?
That's fine, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council, any other comments, questions on the amendments? Councillor Gallo, second time.
My only concern is that we're with point 4, it says that upon completion of the Tecumseh lay-by project, and I guess, and they'll do a traffic study, I guess that's assuming that we'd agree with that and agree to pay for that lay-by project. It's subject to council's approval of that in order for point 4 to be enacted.
Call. So can we add that, Mr. Clerk? Councillor Gardner and Councillor Humphries, you guys are okay with that if we add subject to the lay-by, the approval of the lay-by? Or
Yes.
Councillor Gallo, did you want to do that again one more time, please? Councillor Gallo?
I was just making a point that, I mean, it'd be irrelevant if we don't.
I agree with you, and that's why I'm asking that it be added. I 100% agree with you, because if it's not past that, then yeah, nothing goes on. So no, I agree.
Yeah. Good.
So if you can just, Councillor Gallo, if I can just get you to state that so the clerk can get that, unless he already got it off of what we were just talking.
I would just add subject to the completion of the Tecumseh, subject to the council.
Council approval of the lay-by?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can you add that?
Absolutely. So subject to approval of the Tecumseh lay-by lane at the end of the second clause. I
would just make it a separate clause altogether.
Okay. Will do. Thank you.
So is everybody good with that? Do you guys want me to read that out, or does everyone see it?
Where?
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just speaking to the amendment, I would not be in favor of the amendment because we're talking about a traffic study upon completion of the lay-by and having one-way street on Kitimat. I think it's plainly obvious that if you look at it from the framework of the whole day, you're not going to have much traffic in the framework of the whole day. When we have traffic studies being done, they look at a time frame. We're only looking at, maybe 30, 40, 45 minutes in the morning and the same amount of period in the afternoon. And so I'm not sure in a traditional traffic study, we're going to get, the information that some people are looking for. I think it would not be the best use of resources for the traffic study, because we know what's going to happen. It'll probably read that there's insufficient traffic, but we're talking about safety issues for walkability of pedestrians, not for traffic studies for automobiles. And this is upon completion of the lay-by and completion of the one-way. So I think it's, in terms of what the result's going to be of the traffic study, I think most of us know what the outcome's going to be. So I'm not sure what that's going to accomplish.
So, Councillor, I'm just going to interrupt because it's my understanding that we're not approving the one-way. We're asking staff to come back with a report with their recommendations about the one-way and a possible traffic study.
Well, again, with the traffic study, the traffic study is going to be done with the one-way being implemented and after the lay-by.
Yes, but all I'm suggesting is we can have that conversation when staff come back with a report. We're not approving anything other than staff to come back with a report about this.
Okay. Well, well, frankly, I'm not sure whether it's, well, I mean, if staff is going to spend some time with it, and I really don't think it's going to take that much time, because we've already had discussions internally about this with staff. At least I have, because I wanted to be prepared for this evening's meeting. And what Mr. Waters stated is their professional opinion. So I'm not sure what other opinion that's going to come by through a further study. So that's all I'm saying. And if, you know, through you to Mr. Waters, through you, do you anticipate, if it's referred back to staff, that there's going to be, its outcome is going to be significantly different?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the only thing the study will provide us is with volumes, traffic volumes at certain periods of the day. And typically we would undertake, you know, to look at the traffic at the worst case scenario, which is the peak periods. And in this case, it would likely be, like you said, a Councillor, you know, in the morning and in the afternoons when, you know, the school is seeing a lot of activity. But likely during the day, very little. But at those peak periods in the morning and in the afternoon, you're probably going to see a greater amount of traffic. And we would look at it from that perspective as a worst case scenario.
Councillor?
Thank you. And, you know, based on what Mr. Waters just said, I don't think the outcome is going to be any different, but if it's going to alleviate some council members to make it official as time passes and there's another report written, you know, I'm okay with that. It doesn't hurt. But, you know, traffic study is really more about automobiles, and we're talking about pedestrian traffic as well. So, you know, if that's going to alleviate some of the concerns of council, you know, that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, second time. To the amendment, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of echo the same response as Councillor Kim. I really would like to just focus on the lay-by initiative that we have before us and some of the other recommendations on the report. I feel like we're swaying our attention in a whole different direction and opening up a different can of worms that may require a different kind of focus. And I really truly believe that we need to be using our resources on the lay-by and the sidewalk of what we're originally discussing here today. I certainly want to ensure that we are being responsible with the time and the resources of our staff, especially during this time. And I feel like we can definitely take this part as a separate step, maybe in the future down the road, and maybe look at this as a possibility. But right now, I just think that the step's probably, in my opinion, not necessary.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, you already spoke twice. So the only ones that haven't is Councillor Humphries and Councillor Thompson. Otherwise, I'm a Councillor Humphries, second time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick point. We're looking at this amendment. I may have one other one. I don't really want to join it with this. Is that fair once we get back to the main motion?
That's fine. So are we speaking to the amendment right now?
I just want to clarify that before we leave this.
Afterwards,
no.
you can bring forward as many amendments as you like.
Perfect.
This one
We'll try to stay away from that. So through you, Mr. Mayor, just in terms of this, I understand the concerns of my peers for sure, but I do believe that this is a study. There's been some additional input from residents. I want to have staff's professional input back. If they don't agree, I know Mr. Waters has spoken. I wouldn't mind it back in writing so that the residents see clearly that, you know, whether the one way is right or wrong, that we get that and just put it to bed. That at least we had staff review if it's something that is possible and staff does believe it's the right thing to do, then that's well too. So in this case, I feel like, again, just in terms of budget and capital, this project will not be done until 2021. So delaying it for a staff feedback on this one, to me is okay. I think it's well worth it. It'll help the residents who are accepting sort of what's happening with their properties for the right reasons, that they can have a few other additional requirements that they believe will provide safety measures for pedestrian and safety as well. So I'm still in support of this motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, would you like to speak a second time? Otherwise, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? Hands up, please. I can't see them on your screens. All those opposed? That carries. Back to the main motion as amended.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councillor. You're not on the floor yet. Councillor Gilliland's next up. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. Looking at this report, the lay-by is definitely something that I had pushed for and supported originally when we're talking about the sidewalks the first time around. And originally it was about some snow removal, operations, land and such. And it looks like we've solved some of those problems. And if we really want to sit back and think about the problem we're trying to solve, it is about the school community and the traffic and dropping off the kids at the front door. And if I were to pick and choose or complement any of the projects, this is really the one that I feel is going to solve the problem at hand with the amount of children safely being dropped off at school. If we were to have a conversation about the sidewalks and versus this in the capital budget, I really wish it was included in the capital budget from the original go around that Councillor Humphries had suggested. But I feel like as far as the dollar amount and what we're investing today, if that's what we're deciding, what might serve best the problem that's being presented to the community versus the sidewalk, which 12 years from now, we got to reconstruct the road. We have to tear it up. We have to do it all over again. And clearly we have a lot of issues with the sidewalk, with the residents and the curb cutting and everything else. And maybe it isn't the right side. I'm really not 100%. And when I see what's presented in front of us today, and we really have a rather large budget on this, I feel like if we're going to solve this problem, that's where we should be starting. I'm in support of the lay-by. I've been in support of the lay-by from the very beginning. And I would really hope and encourage that my fellow council members would feel the same way, and that the school community would really benefit from this solution on an immediate action. And I feel like the sidewalk can wait for its scheduled maintenance in 12 years and done properly within its actual projected time frame.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak for the first time before I go to Councillor Humphreys and then back to Councillor Gardner? Nope. Councillor Humphreys, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, again, just to the report, very pleased with the working group. They came up with 6 safety measures. Some of them were not supported by the board. I would like to ask, if possible, that option, safety option C, rearrange school bus parent pickup and drop off areas, be somehow reapproached with the working group, the principal, the school board, the trustee, Bob McRoberts, because it was just like a no-go, don't even go to the trustees, don't bother. It's where we have the kids. But when you look at the diagram, it's just a perfect match to what Our Lady of Grace has. And I'm really concerned that we're not getting the experts to take a look at that site and see how we can make it absolutely safe for the children. have a great parking, kiss and ride, whatever, kiss and drop off set up there. With that, you are not going to have any problems with, road issues that they're experiencing today. At the end of the day, it's about the safety of those children. So I don't know if it's possible, Mr. Mayor, if it's appropriate that I ask that we ask staff to go back to the working group, to the board with our support. I'd even like to support the discussion with our trustee, that they take a second look at rearranged school bus and parent pickup and drop off areas, because I believe this is so key to the full picture. The lay-by, absolutely, it's going to change everything in terms of those buses right now are going in and out of that school parking lot. And you should see what happens, and I'm sorry if you can entertain my few moments, but people, teachers and volunteers are stopping parents from going there now. No, you can't. The buses are coming here. You can't. So the parents are like, okay, I'll park anywhere and then drop my kid off and go. Where it's a natural sort of go in, park, drop your child off, get out, go back out. It's like a very long U. And it's so, I know I used it at Lady River Grace. I was a user of that it works so well. It's so safe. I just, if our staff is recommending it and they provided a diagram and how we could do this, I would like to add that we reapproach the working group for option C. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Waters, is this okay? Is this something that's it's already done? We can't do this. Would love your opinion. Again, I'm not in too much of a rush with this report because we're looking at this for capital budget 2021. I know we had a public meeting today. We should have it ready for then, but we'd love your input.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. As the report indicates, option C, which was to rearrange the school bus and parent pickup drop-off areas at the back, was looked at by the school board and the principal, and they did not support that option. I believe they've got a kindergartner in the back. They're concerned about the impact on that those kids. I mean, you can always ask us to look at it again, but I have a feeling you're going to get the same answer.
Councillor?
Okay, well, I really don't want to waste anybody's time. If we really feel we've done all we can and they're just going to say forget it. I just thought I'd bring it up because I still feel there's probably ways we could have made that really safe, but I'll drop it. I won't make it an amendment if my peers wouldn't be interested in that. So that's fine. We'll go with what it is. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner, I got Councillor Thompson for the first time, so I'm going to let him go ahead of you.
Sure.
Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Waters. Just following on Councillor Humphrey's question, was option C presented sort of in lieu of any of the other options when the conversation was with the school board, or was the conversation to say, if the lay-by is approved, would they look as option C as an additional measure to improve the safety? I just want to know and put it in proper context that if you position it such that we're installing a sidewalk, we're potentially installing a lay-by, would this third measure, in addition to everything else, be considered?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all the options were given equal weight in terms of their evaluation. So they were not, one was not, tied to another option. So I think my understanding is they were looked at equally, and the recommendation that came about as part of the working group was the sidewalk on Kitimat and the lay-by lane would provide the most impact in terms of safety for the children attending the schools.
And I agree that if you were look at the 6 options and you're asked to pick 1 or 2, you're going to pick A and B, not C, over those options. Maybe there is some merit just to, as Councillor Humphreys suggested, say, look, this is what we plan to do going forward. At this time, would you also consider option C, knowing that we will perhaps move forward with A and B? I see no harm in asking. It's kind of like new information's come to the table, so why not ask the question again?
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else for Councillor Gallo, first time?
Thank you. I have some mixed feelings about this. You know, I can see where, you know, there's an argument that kids going to that school are Aurora residents. They are our kids, and we have an obligation to make sure they're safe. I don't know where the line is drawn in terms of responsibility for this type of project, and I'm talking about the lay-by. You know, we don't build schools, and while obviously we are in favor of safe transportation of our children to the schools, where does the responsibility lie? Does it lie amongst the school boards to make sure their school grounds are safe? Or is it incumbent upon us? Because if it's incumbent upon us and we're setting some type of precedence, and maybe someone can help me that we've done this before and we've paid for it and it's all okay. I don't remember doing something like this before. I don't remember paying for something like this before. Maybe there is out there. So I'm just throwing that out there that I think it's a great idea and I think it should be done. I just don't know whether it's our responsibility to do it. I don't know whether it's our taxpayers' responsibility to pay for this. Again, we don't build schools. It's the board's responsibility to make sure their sites are safe. So, you know, that's my view. I'm of the opinion, first of all, to see whose responsibility is it to make sure this happens, and who ultimately, you know, should be paying for this.
Thank you. Anyone else for the first time? Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spent a fair amount of time watching the traffic at this school during school hours, and I was hoping that we could do the lay-by initiative first before we put in the sidewalk to see how much help that would be, because I believe it would be a huge help, especially if the parents dropping off their children just drop them off instead of taking time to get out of the car and do X, Y, and Z. I know it's hard in the morning. So I'm sorry that we can't do the lay-by to begin with, because as Councillor Gillan said, in 9 years, we're going to be digging up this road again. I'm also very disappointed that the school board is not contributing to the lay-by option. As Councillor Gallo just said, I really don't think it's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to take care of the children, to make sure they're safe. But I don't think it's our responsibility to be doing this financially. I don't think there's anything that can be done at this point, but it's just, to me, it just does not sit well. And we're all tight for money. So the other thing is, well, I guess I'll raise it under new business, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make an amendment as well.
Go ahead.
The amendment would be very simple, that residents be included in any further working group meetings. I think that's fair.
Mr. Clerk, did you get that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to confirm that, is that residents on Kitimat or residents in the general area?
I think it should be balanced, but I definitely think, I mean, this is, the residents know this area better than anyone and have just as much interest in safety. So, you know, you'd have to figure out how many residents and how you would decide who. But I think to represent perhaps the different streets just in the surrounding area.
So I need wording for the amendment, though, Councillor.
So it would be residents on the surrounding streets. We haven't heard from anyone on Huron Court.
Would someone like to second that? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you.
Comments or questions on the amendment? I'm gonna call, Councillor Humphries.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if this is appropriate. I should have made an amendment when we talked about option C. I spoke twice, so I don't know if I can do that.
No, you wouldn't let me do it, sir.
We're talking about Councillor Gardner's amendment right now.
Right. So if I can add, it would it be a friendly amendment if the mover and the seconder would accept?
I think it's totally different amendments.
Totally different? Okay, thanks.
Councillor Thompson, to the amendment.
Thank you. Speaking to the amendment, can Councillor Gardner define what she means by included in future working group meetings? Is it the working group holding a public meeting, like an open house like we do, to gauge their feedback? Are they actually participating in every meeting? How many people? I mean, it's pretty open-ended, and I don't want to, complicate things for the working group meetings and somebody to come back and say, well, the residents weren't properly included when we haven't defined what does included mean. So I'd like to ask Councillor Gardner to define exactly what she means by included.
Councillor Gardner? You're on mute, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. And it's true, I haven't thought this through properly to brought it to the table, but the recommendations that were made by the delegate were made because they weren't involved in the committee where the suggestions could have been made. And so they came to the table. So I'm not sure what the parameters should be. And I can think about it for the council meeting, and perhaps you could help me, but perhaps it would be the same as with when we're notifying about public planning within a certain radius, or streets, connecting streets to Tecumseh at a certain radius and a certain distance on Tecumseh. But definitely the residents in the area, they shouldn't have been, in my opinion, excluded from discussions of the working group.
Councillor?
Thank you. I mean, maybe it's a difference in wording. Maybe it's having them involved as opposed to included,
Okay.
But, I look forward to, the conversation, and perhaps maybe it is better to reintroduce it at council in a couple of weeks.
I will.
So that we can define some of these parameters.
Thank you.
Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to raise the same point in that there's a difference between getting feedback from residents and being a part of an advisory type of committee. And the advisory or safety committee that Councillor Humphreys sat on with the trustees, that's something different in terms of contributing to a final decision. But obtaining feedback, I'm fine with that in terms of a workshop, an open house where you're getting feedback. Otherwise, if you have residents, anytime we have a sidewalk or any other issue, participating in decision-making such as this, you might as well have, Mr. Parkomenko from 203 St. John's participate in the fencing bylaw. That's not going to happen. And so I think we need to clarify, what level of participation is going to be with the residents. But I'm all for getting feedback because we need feedback from residents, and that's how bylaws are procured.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Any other comments or questions to this? All those in favor? Opposed? That fails. Back to the main motion. Councillor Thompson, main motion.
On behalf of Councillor Humphreys, I'll put forward her motion that option C that staff be asked to discuss option C again with the working group and the school board on the belief that the lay-by and sidewalk are approved.
Second. Councillor Humphries. Comments or questions on the amendment?
Direct them to Councillor Humphreys.
So everyone see the amendment that the staff and the working group asked the school board to rearrange the pickup and drop off points should the lay-by lane be approved. Councillor Thompson, you okay with that?
Sure, if the seconder is.
Seconder, you okay with that?
I'd like this, but it's to work with the school board. So we need to work with the school board to have that reconsidered to be approved. It's option C in the safety list measures. So I would say that the working group asked the school board to rearrange pickup drop-off points should lay-by be approved. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Are good?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gardner? You're on mute.
I spent some time at the back of the school thinking about this. It may work. I don't think it's as perfect as Councillor Humphreys thinks it is, but I think it could work. But I'm not interested in this if it's going to be the town that pays for this. So I don't know whether that needs to go on the motion or whether that just needs to be understood by council.
Well, Councillor, I would just suggest that the same thing as I said about the other motion earlier is that this is just asking to go back and talk to them about it. It would eventually come back to us, then we could deal with that issue if there was any cost implications, and we could decide whether we wanted to go forward with it on the basis that we fund it or whether we ask that the school board fund it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You can see that I'm pretty angry about this. We're asking all the residents of the town to take over this responsibility. It belongs to the school board. The school was planned at a very different time, but it's up to the school board to improve their schools and ensure the safety of the students on their school property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to soften the language of the amendment just to say that the school board consider rearranging the pickup and drop off points. At the end of the day, we're just asking them to consider this.
So you wanted to say that staff and the working group asked the school board to consider rearranging the pickup and drop off points should the lay-by lane be approved. Is that
yeah, correct? I just want to soften the language. It's their decision at the end of the day, and it may very well be no again, but given the new information, we'd like them to just reconsider.
Okay. Seconder, okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can you, you got that in there pretty quick.
Good job.
Any other comments or questions on the amendment? Councillor Humphreys.
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor. That's exactly what I was going to mention. Reconsider, consider, and absolutely support Councillor Gardner and everyone's comments that the school board needs to look at the budgeting process of this and should be absolutely contributing at minimum 50%, if not 100%. And to your point, Mr. Mayor, when this comes back, we can deal with that. I do know that. Just a point of clarification, I was not on the working group committee. I just asked for that to be developed. I just saw the report like everyone else. But I did have a conversation with Trustee McRoberts, and he said he was going to work really hard on this and to try to get budget. Not easy, but he would try. So I think we still have an opportunity to try to work closely with the board if this does move forward to get some funding because you're right, it's all our responsibility and the school board's responsibility to keep their the students safe. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. No other comments or questions on the amendment? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Amended twice. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo.
Just further to that same point, Councillor Humphreys and my point earlier, I'm not sure which staff, but I'd like the rationale of point 3 in the recommendations that we fund the lay-by.
So, and now Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In conversations with the reps from the school board, we had about 4 on the working committee. The approach from their perspective was that the town would pay for the design and construction of the lay-by lane. They did say that property and or an easement would be supported by the school board staff, but that they would need their trustees to approve that that decision. They would bring forward a report supporting that. There was no conversation about cost sharing any of the construction for the lay-by lane.
Councillor?
But was there a conversation saying that they should pay for?
To you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we did ask for cost sharing, but as I think it was mentioned just a few minutes ago, money is tight at the board, and they weren't optimistic that the board would share in cost sharing the construction and design of the lay-by lane.
I guess it's pretty convenient for them to just, as a working group, make those decisions, yet we in front of council have to make the decisions on behalf of the taxpayer. So I won't be supporting the third recommendation, and certainly, and I realize it's going to budget, but in the meantime, you know, we should push back and ask them to bring it to their board and have them say yes or no, whether they're going to fund it or not. It's not acceptable to me for a working group to say, no, we're not going to pay for it, but we'll give you the easement. You know, it's a gray area in terms of it's a shared responsibility, you know, and I'm happy to have that discussion. But to me, and from what I've seen, it's primarily the board's responsibility to have safe transportation for the children. So I won't be supporting that, and I'm happy if it goes through. I mean, we'll have this discussion at budget, but I don't think we should just, you know, roll over and say, yes, we'll pay for it right at the get-go.
Any other comments or questions? I just want to add, Councillor Humphries, you spoke twice to the main motion. I was just going to add 100% on that third clause. I think that it sets a precedent moving forward. You know, a lot of schools that have been built in, you know, a long time ago probably fall into some of the similar situations. And so what's going to happen is we're going to start creating laybys after, and the town's going to be paying for these, the construction of these. I think it sets a precedent for that. And I really do think at minimum, the conversation shouldn't even begin unless let's splitting the cost. That should be the starting point. And then let's work towards where we go from there. It should not be that the town should be on the hook for the full construction cost. No, I would prefer that maybe if someone, and maybe the clerk can respond to this, Mr. Clerk, would it be out of order for someone to put forward an amendment, say asking that we ask the school board to fund the construction cost of this lay-by?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't see that as out of order. Maybe it could just be a minor wording change to number 3 that prior to the request coming to budget, that the school board be asked to. Sorry, I don't have your right the wording you suggested.
Request the school board to fund the design and construction of the lay-by and to come see in the amount of 125,000. Would that be in order?
Yeah, I think it would be.
Okay, I mean, and I'll leave it up to council. If anyone wants to move that, I mean, I think that would be appropriate and I would love to see that, but I can't obviously make an amendment. Councillor Gilliland, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I tried raising my hand earlier, but I wasn't too fast enough. But I would be more than happy to move that amendment forward, because I do think that it should be explored as to the cost sharing between the board and the town in some sort of fashion. So I do agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Gallo and his points there, and I would be happy to put that amendment forward.
Thank you.
If I could get a second.
Anyone like to second that? Councillor Gardner? Any comments or questions on the amendment? Mr. Clerk, can you get that up on the screen for everyone, please?
Absolutely. Just give us 15 seconds.
Sure. Councillor Thompson, is your hand up for the amendment?
Apologize, Mr. Mayor. We're just working out the amendment. If we'll have it up in a minute or two, if you want to continue with the speaker line, or if that needs to be up first, then we'll.
Thompson, are you okay to go with that without it being up yet to speak? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I certainly support it. I mean, I think it's important to put it on the capital list for 2021. I think it's important to identify the cost. The question then remains, who's going to fund it? Sometimes, we figure out the source of funds at the capital budget process, and that's just what we're doing here. And I would certainly hope that even if we hadn't made this amendment, that the conversation would have still continued as to how it was going to be paid for. And so I think this just makes it clearer, and I certainly support that.
Thank you.
Not having seen the motion, the amendment, but I'm assuming
it's coming very soon. It's coming very soon. Anyone else at this point? Okay, we'll just wait for it to show up.
Do we need to call a quick recess?
I'm being assured it'll be up very, very soon. And there you go. Councillor Gilliland?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so with this amendment moving forward, I really do think it's important that the board is approached and has some sort of involvement in this, because I really do believe the whole heart of the issue that's going on with the safety of the children is all in conjunction with the drop off with the students of the school and the community. And I really do think that this is a really good solution for the problem that's been presented. And I really hope that the school board does see that this is probably the best route to go down to solve those safety issues and work with us with that. So I really do look forward to those conversations if this is approved. And I really look forward to discussing this within the budget meeting in 2021.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, second time.
Thank you. Just to clarify, if the school board is asked and declines to pay for the project, will it still be included in the budget?
I would say by the wording, yes, but let's get confirmation. Mr. Clerk.
Through Mr. Mayor, that was my understanding.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions to the amendment? All those in favor? Oh, Councillor Gallo.
Just really quickly, I agree with this, and I think it shows, you know, a partnership, because I'm working on something else that has both parties that are involved, and sometimes, you know, we need help from them and they need help from us. So I think this is appropriate, and it's the right way to go.
Thank you. All those in favor? That carries. Back to the main motion as amended 3 times. Seeing no other comments or questions, I only have Councillor Gilliland or Councillor Thompson that can speak, actually. So I'm seeing nods and waving no, so I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, Council,
Okay.
we move to R3, PDS 20-034, assessment on various options to support existing traffic calming measures on Center Street. Recommended, 1, that the report number PDS 20-034 be received. 2, that option C be implemented by installing signage on Center Street at Yonge Street, advising that Center Street is not a thorough street. Would someone like to move the motion? Moved by Councillor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I'd like to thank staff. Big thank you. I think this will help. And I appreciate the continued work on it. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Waters, I noticed that there was a traffic counter placed just where the one-way begins. Is there any information you can give us on the number of cars or the volume of traffic that goes through there?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not at this time, but I can certainly check with my traffic analyst and see if there's any volumes that I can report to you either by email or at the council meeting. I'll try to get to you with some volumes if there are any available through email, if that's okay.
Thank you. By email would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, Councillor Gardner?
No, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson? Oh, no, you had your hand up. But it's still there from the last one. That's fine. I can put it down. No other comments or questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. R4, CS 20-012, transfer of Part 3 prosecutions from the province. Recommended, 1, that report number CS 20-012 be received, and 2, that the attached resolution be approved to delegate authority to the regional municipality of York to enter into agreements with the province on behalf of the town that will amend the memorandum of understanding and the local side agreement and transfer prosecutions of certain Part 3 offenses under the Provincial Offences Act to the region. Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gardner, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For any members of the public that may be watching, could staff please explain what this is? My understanding is that we have no choice in this matter, but it's a rather interesting thing that's happening. So if staff could just give a short summary of why we're doing this.
Who is Ms. Van Leeuwen or Ms. Desario? Ms. Van Leeuwen. Ms. Desario, sorry.
Go ahead, Tricia.
Thank you. Yes, I can give a brief description through you, Mr. Mayor. So in the 1990s, the province transferred the prosecution of offenses under parts 1 and parts 2 to municipalities. And then from there, the 9 local municipalities in York Region, we entered into an agreement with the region so that the region would then prosecute prosecution matters on our behalf. Now the province is looking to transfer part 3. So some of the offenses under part 3, the remainder were to us. But again, since prosecutions in York Region are handled by York Region is the one who will be entering into the agreement with the province, as will the rest of the municipalities, the 9 local municipalities. But just to make things easier, instead of circulating the agreements to all of the 9 municipalities, York Region is just requesting that authority be delegated to them to sign the agreements on our behalf.
Councillor?
Thank you. That was a great summary. Are there any financial implications for us?
Ms. Desario?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the town? No, there is not.
Councillor?
Great. And will it be less work for us, or the same amount of work, or no work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I suggest that it's possibly a little bit more work, but it's really the same amount of work, unless Ms. Van Leeuwen knows differently.
You have anything to add to that?
I would say for our staff, it's the same amount of work. It does create some streamlining and efficiencies through the court system, because currently we have courts that are prosecuted by the region. So we have a T1 court, and there are T2 courts where the province is prosecuting certain things. So it creates streamlining in terms of officers' availability and scheduling, and it's just a much more efficient process.
Thank you. That is good news. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I think Councillor Gartner asked all my questions, but just for a point of clarity for the public's sake as well, and I know you and I had a pretty lengthy conversation, Mr. Serio, about the part 1 and 2 and some parts of 3, and I think some of the confusion that I had was what part of part 3 did that entail, because it didn't say all of part 3, it just said some parts. So I was hoping that maybe you could give a little bit of clarity on what the definition of that means.
Mr. Serio?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So part 1 offenses are typically offenses that begin with a ticket, and they're less serious offenses. So for example, they're a speeding ticket, and they usually have a minimum fine, like a set fine, and imprisonment is not typically a penalty when it comes to part 1 offenses. Part 2 offenses are strictly parking infractions. And then part 3 offenses are more serious offenses. And those are offenses that can have jail time to them, and they or higher penalties. And so the examples of some of part 3 offenses are those under like stunt driving. There are also some under the Dog Owners Liability Act, and those are the ones that would be coming to the region to prosecute. But then the ones that would not be coming to the region are certain other ones, like the insurance ones or other ones that are directly done by provincial ministries. But then more importantly, the ones that will not be transferred are any matters that are against young people, any matters that also have a criminal component to it where that has already been commenced, and then any matters having to do with the sex offenders registry.
Great, thank you. That really shed some clarity on what the differences mean and what we're actually handling. And it is good to hear that we don't have any financial implications on our town. It's really good news. And so I guess the real the terminology is by laying of information in the process in which that the offense is, and that the legislation is really going to determine where that lies. And there's a streamlined process for that. So I think that this is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. And most of my questions were answered, but just along that same line of thinking, are there, I'm just trying to wrap my head around why we're doing this. I mean,
Because we have to.
Even if whether we even have a choice, what if we were to say no? You know, I assume the province would have to come to us and not to the region, and we'd be in the same situation. But it's more along the lines of why are we making these changes, or why is the province making these changes?
Mr. Saria?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I would suggest that the province is making the changes because they're just getting pretty busy. But in terms of the region, they're happy with these changes because, as Ms. Van Loon said, the streamlining of the courts would be better. There is a few reasons why the region is happy with this. So it would improve trial scheduling, because right now the courts are being used by both the region and the province to prosecute these matters. And then in some cases, witnesses, for example, police officers have to be in 2 courts, the lawyers have to be in 2 courts. So just having the region do all of these would at least improve the trial scheduling, will allow for court appearances for officers and lawyers to all be in the same courtroom. It would enhance service delivery to the public so that there would be 1 prosecution office. And I'm just reading what the region wrote, and that's pretty much it.
Councillor?
Okay, I mean, that's fine. It makes sense. Makes sense to me to move down this path.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this one? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. R5 PDS 20-035, approval for capital project number 42810, climate change adaptation plan. Recommended 1, that report number PDS 20-035 be received, and 2, that this report satisfy council's conditional budget approval for capital project number 42810, climate change adaptation plan, in the amount of $100,000. Someone like to move this? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a real quick comment that I'm really happy to see this come forward, and it's extremely exciting. I'm also really excited to know that the budget is a lot less than we had anticipated. I love the report. It's very detailed. The expectations are outlined, and I'm really looking forward to the next steps moving forward. So really, really, really positive.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, and then Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gardner after.
Just through you to, I guess, Mr. Waters, to confirm that the capital budget sheet in the report will be then amended to say 100,000.
Mr. Waters?
That's correct, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. We attached what was presented at council at the last budget cycle regarding the conditional approval. Okay. Yes, we can update that. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
Just, I realized in the report, but not in a lot of detail, but maybe the director can let us know why the budget is half as, or the cost half as much as what we budgeted for.
Mr. Waters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Initially, we had come up with a budget of $200,000 based on our benchmarking of other municipalities who have done a similar type of climate change plan. What we're hoping for is we can harvest a lot of what the region has done through their climate change plan and reduce the cost by about 50%, which is about $100,000. The other thing there to take note of is that there are a lot of these being prepared now because they're part of provincial policy. They're required as input into your asset management plan. So we're hoping to take advantage of economies of scale, whereby plan is very popular now, and we can hopefully use that to reduce the cost.
Great. I'm glad to see that we're looking at what other people are doing, and as you say, take some of that and reduce our costs.
Thank you. Councillor Garner, did you put down your hand, or you still want to speak?
No, you recognize that I wanted to speak, so I put it down. And I would like to thank our environmental manager, Ms. Keel. As Councillor Gillan said, it's a very good report. It's comprehensive, and it's easy to understand. And I hope the public have a chance to have a look at it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Any other comments or questions? Well, I'd just like to say, if anyone has a chance to see the regional report, they should take a look at it. If not, I will get you guys a copy so you guys can all take a look at it. It's actually a very extensive and very detailed report and plan. And then I would also like to thank Councillor Thompson for the suggestion during budget that we hold off and wait for that regional plan to be developed. I mean, first blush now, it's saved us 50% of the money. So thank you. No other comments, questions? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, no notice of motion. New business. I will start. Councillor Thompson. Fine. Councillor Gillan, new business.
Thank you. I did have some new business, but I don't think I can say as of yet, but I think Councillor Humphreys may have something in new business. I don't know, but we'll wait for her to say. I did actually have a question about the capital budgets for our currently approved projects that we have on the go. And I understand that we're going to have a review coming in our upcoming budget meeting, but I was wondering if we were able to receive a report of the approved budgets that we are capital projects that we have on the go already, just so we can kind of take and some of the ones that we have approved but have not started. So at least we can have an inside look at what those projects are, and maybe given the fact that the climate that we're in, maybe just take a pause to kind of review if those are the things that we really want to push through right now, and maybe put a different timeline on it. And just on the projects that we haven't started is what I'm looking for. And I was just hoping perhaps staff would be able to provide that information.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I would refer you to the capital project close report. On attachment 3, there is a listing of all the active capital projects, and it shows what has been spent to the end of last year. So that'll give you a good indication of which projects have been started by the end of last year. Also, the projects that we do have already been funded through previous year's budgets. So part of this 2021 budget, we are going to bring everything back, and anything that has not been spent, we're going to make sure that we forecast the dollars either in this year, in future years, or maybe even take a look at whether or not we need those projects. And that's going to go part and parcel with the enhanced reserve analysis that we're going to be doing. And we're just getting into that right now with the 2021 budget and starting to take a look at what those reserve implications are. And we'll be prioritizing all projects around the monies that are available in reserves.
Okay, perfect. That report you said in attachment 3, could you repeat what that report was so I can refer to it?
Capital close.
Capital close. Okay. Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kim, new business? Councillor Gallo, I'm going to go to you next because you jumped on my screen. You were over there, so I'll go to you next. New business?
Yeah, just maybe to clarify my understanding of Councillor Gilliland's question. I think it was in reference to any projects that we budgeted but have not started, and I don't think those are part of that capital closure list. Any of the ones that are on there are ones that we've completed or that are in progress. So I'm interested in seeing those that have not been started, but have been budgeted for, perhaps through the budget process or through a memo. I'm not sure. And just speaking to that capital closure report as well, I did, and I know other people asked questions, and we never did get answers to some of the questions that we had asked. So I'll follow up with staff afterwards. But I think in a public setting, we've asked questions on various items, and I think we should get answers to those. And there was a second item. Yes, I had in the past asked for when a report would be coming to council regarding staff looking internally on our operations and to see where, if any, savings that can be had to mitigate budget deficits. And I'm wondering if that is coming in June.
Ms. Wainwright on council.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So at our next general committee meeting, we will have a report on the water, wastewater, and stormwater budget. And at the council meeting at the end of this month, there will be a report on the tax levy budget.
Councillor.
So is that the report that was the one I was referring to in terms of us looking internally? Well, I'll wait to see that, and maybe I'll ask some questions once that's up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphries, new business.
Just under new business, just a comment. Just trying to get my thoughts, make sure this is not a public service announcement, but in terms of requirements, there's been some asks as to why artisans or arts and culture is not part of the farmers market. And I've had a couple of people ask. I know Councillor Gilliland was approached, and I had some of the vendors from the market saying, why aren't the artisans part of the farmers market? My understanding is that it's part of the Ontario Public Health rules for COVID at the moment. We're waiting for information. I just want to confirm with staff if this is the case, and any idea when we'll hear any changes, if at all. So I don't know if that's to Miss Van Leeuwen. She's heard anything.
Van Leeuwen, have you heard anything in regards to when they will allow possibly artists into the farmers market?
I have not yet heard of when that may occur. Right now, it's food only considered an essential service under provincial orders. So at this point in time, as we know, this is a changing environment daily, so it could be any day.
Correct.
And the other, through Mr. Mayor, the other area that I know was a concern was also, groups of 5 or more. So if you have entertainment and that type of thing, you'll be having gatherings. And I think that's another restriction that we need to be concerned with. Is that correct? Through you, Mr. Mayor?
That'd be correct.
Okay, and that's what I just wanted to, I guess that's what I wanted to mention to anyone wondering what's happening. We still have to abide by the Ontario public health rules and the Ontario provincial safety measures that we're having at the moment. But I know that the farmers market and staff are trying, watching this closely. The moment there's some relief, this will occur. So thanks. That's all I wanted to confirm tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Kitchener wrote a letter to the Prime Minister. They CC'd the province and FCM and us, urging the provincial government to pursue a partnership with the federal government to establish a basic income. And there are reasons where that this could have a really positive effect on reducing poverty, strain on the healthcare system, social assistance, etc., as well as provide support for businesses and the economy, and just bring more efficiency into the system. Because unfortunately, COVID-19 has shown a lot of weakness in our systems. So I just asked that this be placed on the agenda because I'm looking forward to see what FCM says about this. I noticed that AMO wasn't CC'd on it. Could I ask? Could I ask?
It was on the agenda earlier today. It was on C1. Yeah, you didn't come in. That's why. Fully, yeah, I'm allowing you to speak to it right now because
yes, thank you. I appreciate that, and I apologize for coming in late. So, this idea about a guaranteed income has been talked about for a long time, and we saw a lot of the cracks because of COVID. A lot of people had significant worry and stress about this, and it's actually quite a lot of people, and I think there are people in our community that were affected as well. So just so that council could be aware of it, and then we can keep our eye on it. Thank you. The second thing is I've had complaints from residents about grass clippings. They have to take their grass clippings, I believe, to, or GFL anyway, is charging $10 a bag for grass clippings. And if you add that up over the summer period, that's a lot of money. I don't believe that the town is accepting grass clippings. And I just wondered why. I just wondered why. I don't know if anyone can answer.
Mr. Downey?
Mr. Downey.
Good evening. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we have never collected grass clippings, so it's not a service that we provided. It is something that we could add, but it would be at an additional cost.
Thank you. So, okay. There are some unhappy residents, and because finances are tight, I guess it's really come up. The last thing is, I don't know what it is, if it's public service or new business, but I would like to say that I'm very sad for what happened in Minneapolis. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor. I have one for new business. As everyone knows, the mayor's office has created task force roundtables, working groups, and they've been temporary measures put in place while we deal with the pandemic. And a lot of them are rounding out and finishing up. And so I just thought this was a good opportunity to go through and update council with some of the things that have happened at each of them. So we all have an understanding, and also the public knows what's been happening through the task force. So at the Business Continuity Task Force, we've developed a marketing plan to shop local that is actually just in the beginning stages and will be going out. So we're going to be promoting and capturing the enthusiasm that everyone has right now for supporting our local businesses, and we want to make sure that maintains throughout as we go through our recovery phase. The Business Continuity Task Force also developed a checklist for all of our businesses within our town to how they could better prepare as they start to reopen and as that reopening phase comes to fruition. And so we want to make sure that they're fully prepared. And so that checklist is going out, that was developed, as well as a poster that they can put in the front of the store saying that they're following certain guidelines and suggestions from the province and from the town of Aurora to make sure that not only that their workplace is safe for their employees, but also that it's safe for the residents to come and visit and shop and continue to shop local. So we felt that was important. So that's some of the stuff that the Business Continuity Task Force has done. As far as the Community Cares Action Team, they have had 2 thermometers that were donated to Rest Haven. They were short; they didn't have them. We were able to find someone that was willing to donate, and I believe it was EMS. It was through YRP. They were able to work out and get two thermometers and donate them to Rest Haven. It was much needed. We also looked at securing and purchasing iPads through working with Apple and with Rogers. It was the same deal that was provided to the Ministry of Education, where they picked up 25,000 iPads to help students that didn't have access to that type of service. The thought was that we can provide this technology to vulnerable residents as well as our senior population that might not have access to, so they can keep in touch with their families during these difficult times. Also, they created a resource document that I believe, and Councillor Gardner and Councillor Humphries will agree with me, is an extraordinary document that this action team worked on and developed. And kudos to Aaron from Neighborhood Network, who did, I think, most of the work putting it together. And this document is going to live on past this. Anything that anyone can think of, any type of service that anyone would need is there listed, from food to mental health to facilities that people might need to visit. They're all listed there for people to have that, and it's a resource that I think is going to live on, and it's going to be able to grow and become even bigger. And I've already heard that other municipalities are looking if they can get a copy of it and piggyback off of it and utilize it and create their own as well. So that was a phenomenal document that they created. Also, 4 applications have already come in and been approved to help residents in our community that have fallen into financial hardship. And the task force will continue that. And as we move and dissolve, that would move back into the Golf Committee, and they would start to look at those applications as well. As far as the sports roundtable, they've been working on and developing how to return to play. They've had many conversations. I think that a lot of our organizations are ready to return to play as soon as the province says that we can. And I'm fulfilling a promise to all of our sports organizations that as the mayor that I will meet with them on a quarterly basis. So we're going to continue that. And we found that through Zoom, it's a great opportunity for me to be able to meet with them and hear what their wants, what their needs are, and what their concerns are on 4 times a year. So that's turned out to be an incredible aspect of that. Also, one other thing that I'd like to throw in there is that through these task force roundtables, we've utilized $100,000 of funds. And I'd just like to point out, not one penny is tax dollars. $100,000 donated. That's how generous our community, our corporations, our businesses in this town are. They've stepped up to the plate and have donated close to $100,000 for us to utilize to help our vulnerable residents, our local businesses. So kudos to all of them for stepping up. Our arts and culture working group, I wasn't able to devote as much time to that because it fell into close around the same time as business continuity. Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gill, and Councillor Gallo, you were sitting on that. Maybe if one of you could maybe let us know some of the tangible outcomes that have come forward so far. I think that would be appreciated. I don't know who would want to. Does anyone? Hands? Councillor Gillan?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, absolutely. The Arts and Culture Group has been doing absolutely fantastic. We had a survey that had gone out and got a lot of feedback from a lot of our community cultural partners and as well as other arts and culture businesses in the town, which has been really great. So it's been people on the ground giving us the hardships that they're going through, the issues and the challenges. We had some staff collaborate and put all that together, and we were fortunate to have Minister McLeod and Mr. Michael Parsa, our MPP, join us on one of our calls so we could share the outcome of some of these survey results and get an update of what the ministry has available to the arts and culture sector. There has been some funding that has been released in this sector, and we are preparing a list to go out to everybody to break down all the resources available to them. We've also provided also a rather large document of resources in this sector to capture all different kinds, because art and culture could mean painting, music, culinary, dance, theater. It encompasses quite a broad area, and we don't want anybody to feel forgotten in this area. The minister did reference this community as the canaries in the coal mine because they were the very first ones to kind of suffer the most. So I know they are working really hard in order to put together a reopening strategy, and they are focusing a lot on this area of interest. And I did learn from another call as well that we had, we were fortunate to have the Deputy Premier join us as well. And she had informed us all that there's an Ontario Live website that's going to be launched soon, where artists will have the opportunity to showcase some of their art, and they will be paid for some of their services and allowed to also sell some of their merchandise. So there's a lot of exciting things that are coming up. And as we continue to evolve the conversations and move forward, we're getting some more information on how we can share and collaborate to make sure that we can support each other within our community. One last thing I want to mention is I know that Councillor Humphries had mentioned an initiative of doing some sort of video compilation to show the community, hey, we're here, support, engage, and how can we build the community up together within this sector. And we had a recent discussion about some ideas that had gone on, and we've had a couple of people who have stepped up, who have put together a plan and put an action in place based on this collaboration. And I'm happy to say that they have connected offline and they're going forward with some sort of a video initiative. And we hope to have an update soon. So our next meeting that will be coming up, hopefully we'll have a lot more information out there, but I'm really, really super excited about this initiative moving forward.
Thank you for that up. Councillor Gardner, did you have your hand up?
I did, Mr. Mayor. Hold on, am I mute? No. You know, COVID-19 has been a terrible situation and caused so much hardship in so many ways, but it's wonderful to hear these very positive initiatives that have come out of it for our community and hopefully for a lot of other communities. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Humphries?
Can I just say one more thing? Because I just kind of ended it there on the video. Aside from that, I just want to thank staff for helping out as much as they can. And also I wanted to extend a huge thank you to both Councillor Gallo and Councillor Humphries for joining this initiative and all the work that you guys are supporting and contributing to this group as well. And I think it really does show that we all care, and we leave no man hanging down, and we're trying to make sure that everybody has support. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Humphries?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, and I know I've spoken earlier, but I just wanted to just reiterate that, you know, I'm really proud of what the committees have done. The work here has been almost overwhelming in terms of some of the things that they've done. And that living document, I think Councillor Gardner's on with us, it's such an incredible resource document that I believe what I've noticed is that document and some of the things that you've talked about on the business continuity and on our cultural roundtable, that there's a lot of, I'm finding there's a lot of similarities, and there's, you know, it's all sort of intertwined and tying together, that all these areas in one way or another need the same type of support and the same type of guidance and resources. So I'm just wondering through you, Mr. Mayor, is there a time when, how long these task force are going to go for, and are we going to be looking at combining, or are we going to be looking at taking some resources and sharing? Only because I did notice that, you know, it's from a business perspective, people need that, the resource and the continuity side, that maybe there's an opportunity to deliver the messaging to each of these groups from a business perspective. Because I know that you know, through Councillor Gill and their initiative, that there's a lot of, you know, that group is looking for more opportunity for support. And I noticed from what you were saying earlier in terms of continuity, maybe there's a checklist that we can know more of. And maybe it's my own fault for not keeping myself aware, but anyway, so what are your thoughts on that?
No, so I was just say that, and I did speak, I was at the last Arts and Culture Working Group, and I did bring up the fact that the checklist from a business perspective, all businesses, regardless of what sector they're in, will get that checklist. Whether they're entertainment, whether they're arts and culture, whether they're grocery store, whether they're industrial, whether they're going to get that checklist. And actually starting, and I'm glad you brought that up, starting later this week, we are actually going to be, as a town, visiting all of our businesses door to door. and having conversations with them. So Nick is going to be going out with some staff members and going out and visiting them, having discussions with them and making sure that they all have an understanding of, of how we can support them, how we can get them up and running. So that's going to be occurring as well. So is there opportunities? Possibly. And I think, as I mentioned, these are temporary measures, these groups, these roundtables, these task force. And as they dissolve, they'll probably dissolve into other groups. The business continuity is going to dissolve, and probably a lot of the work will move over to the Economic Development Board. And as we as a council have approved our committees to be able to work virtually now, and we had our Heritage Committee yesterday, our first one. So a lot of the task force were developed because our committees weren't allowed to be up and running at the time. And so now that we can have them up and running, it seems it's probably the right time that a lot of these committees start to dissolve and dissolve into some of our normal working committees. But we'll deal with that as we come through. And I'm continuing to look forward to seeing a lot of the great work that's occurring. Public service announcements. Go the opposite way. Councillor Gardner. Sorry, nothing from you? Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson, public service announcement. Councillor Humphreys, public service announcement.
Just really quickly through Mr. Mayor, the Aurora Farmers Market had its second week, as you know, and most of the councillors, it's been run fantastic. I want to thank staff again tremendously, like run in this sort of day and age of extreme safety. They've done such a great job. And I do want to mention a couple of things that we learned today, that the Toronto and Woodbridge and one other municipality are looking to our market for the template to open their markets. So they've been meeting with Toronto and Woodbridge. It's very exciting that they've come, and they've actually, I came here last week, I walked through, but they're really working with the AFM executive to understand, what it is, how they got this walk through AFM or walk through a market where a majority of them are pre-order, here's your bag, go home, and to run it so safely as they have. So the volunteers, unbelievable. Thank you to you, Mr. Mayor, and staff, because there was such a willingness from staff right from the moment go, from Bylaw, Ms. Van Leeuwen, Ms. McDougall, Mr. Downey, the teams within them. I hope I don't miss anyone. I don't mean to, but honestly, it's such a success, and it's really raised the morale of our town. Everyone looks forward to. There's those lineups, they move really quickly. To points made earlier this evening, hopefully we'll be able to have artisans in the park soon enough, and some of the great music and that we had previously when we're allowed. But we are absolutely following everything to the public health, to the T, to our staff providing guidance to the vendors and the FM. We don't want to break any rules. We want to absolutely make sure that we are not going to be taking any steps backward, but only moving forward. So just want to thank staff again very much, because the willingness was extreme and it's not gone unnoticed. The FM are eternally grateful, and I think the residents are just absolutely thrilled. So I want to thank you all very much. And again, couldn't have done it without the mayor and staff. It just wouldn't have happened. So thank you so much. We should be very proud in this circumstance today.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries. Councillor Kennedy, PSA? No. Councillor Gallo, PSA? Councillor Gallo, PSA?
Just a quick, I guess, heartfelt shout out to all Aurorans. I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone that, we'll get through this difficult times. And I strongly believe that notwithstanding all the negativity and all of that, there's a lot of positive things that are happening. And I'm sure we all agree that when we're down and out, a lot of magic happens. And while we don't realize it when we're down and out, when the dust settles, we become stronger. So just a heartfelt shout out to all Aurorans, and that we'll get through this.
Thank you. Okay. We have no closed session. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gardner, All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Stay safe, everyone. See you next week.